Good morning, students. This is chapter number 10, Animal Tissues. In previous lecture, we studied about the epithelial tissues and connective tissue. Now, this lecture, second lecture of this animal tissue, these are two tissues are remaining, which is the muscular tissues and nervous tissue. The muscular tissues are present in muscles. They are made up of highly specialized, thin and elongated cells called as muscle fibers. The muscle fibers contain specialized cytoplasm called as sarcoplasm that contain network of the membrane called as sarcoplasmic reticulum. The muscle fibers may be bounded by the cell membrane called as sarcolemma. You can see in this diagram the outer covering which is called as sarcolemma, which is bounded bounded, and it consists of number of fibers which is called as a muscle fiber, which is called as a myofibrils. Then each muscle fiber may contain numerous longitudinal fibrils called as myofibrils. Now, what are the basic physiological properties of muscular tissues? First, contractibility, excitability, extensibility, and elasticity. Now, this muscles is again three types: cardiac muscle, skeletal muscle, and smooth muscles. Cardiac muscles specially present in a heart wall for the contraction and relaxation. Then skeletal muscles is associated with the human skeleton for the movement, and the smooth muscles these are present in stomach, urinary bladder, etc. Now these muscular tissues again three types. First one is the skeletal tissue, uh, skeletal muscles, then smooth muscles and cardiac muscle. Now these are the characteristics. What is the characteristic of first, which is a movement in that skeletal, which is a voluntary movement. Voluntary movements means the movement which is under control, means the movement which is we can control ourselves, which is called as a voluntary. For example, uh, running, jumping, writing, eating, these are the movements which is our under control, and this is called as a voluntary movements. Then smooth muscles, this is the involuntary, which is not our control. Then cardiac, which is also involuntary. Then what is the structure? The skeletal muscles are cylindrical and it is non-branch. And next smooth is a which is a spindle shaped, not branch, and cardiac, which is a cylindrical and which is a branch. Now it consists of muscle shows light and dark bands, which is called as a uh, um, strips or band. Then these strips or bands are present in case of skeletal muscle, but it is absent in smooth muscles, and it is again present in case of cardiac muscles. The nucleus, in case of skeletal, there are many nucleus are present. In case of smooth, there is a single nucleus is present. In cardiac, there is a again single nucleus is present. Now, what is the location? The skeletal muscles are associated with the limbs of our body. For example, hind limbs and forelimbs for the movement. The smooth muscles, which is associated with the alimentary canal and uterus. And last, which is a cardiac, which is found in a heart. These are the some muscular tissues, three types: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Now, these are the skeletal muscles. First type, the skeletal muscles is called as a striated because of its appearance of light and dark bands visible using a light microscope. A single skeletal muscle cell is long and approximately cylindrical in shape, with many nuclei located at the edges of the cell. What is the function of this skeletal muscle? Movement of the skeleton. Under the conscious control, including the movement of limbs, fingers, toes, necks, etc. Also, the movement of tissues of facial expression under the conscious control, example, the ability to smile and to frown. There is a, again movement of tissues. Now, the skeletal or striated muscles constitute about 50% of the body weight. Means these are 50% of body weight is because of the skeletal or striated muscles. You can see in this diagram there is sarcolemma, and this is the myofibrils are present, and it shows a light and dark band. This is the skeletal muscles. Next one is the smooth muscles. Unlike skeletal and cardiac muscle tissue, smooth muscle is not striated, therefore, it is called as smooth muscles. Smooth muscle fibers are small and tapered in both the ends, reducing in size, in contrast to the cylindrical shape of the skeletal muscle. Each smooth muscle fiber has a single centrally located nucleus is present. What is the function of the smooth muscles? Contraction of smooth muscles constrict the vessels they surround, and this is particularly important in the digestive system, in which the action of smooth muscles helps to move the food along the gastrointestinal tract as well as breaking the food down the further. Smooth muscles also contribute to moving fluids through the body and the elimination of the indigestible matter from the gastrointestinal system, and this is the smooth muscle. Next one is the cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle fiber are striated, they are branched and have a single central nucleus is present. They are fibers attached at their end to adjoining fibers by thick plasma membrane called as intercalated disc. What is the function? Pumping of blood through the heart, alternate contraction and relaxation of the cardiac muscle pump. This is the deoxygenated blood through the right atrium and right ventricle to the lungs, and oxygenated blood through the left atrium and left ventricle to the aorta, then the rest of the body. And this is such type of muscles are present in the heart, which is the cardiac muscles, contraction and relaxation. Next type of tissue, which is the nervous tissue. The nervous tissue is the main tissue component of the two parts of the nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. The central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord both combinedly formation of central nervous system takes place, and the branching of the peripheral nerves of the peripheral nervous system, which regulates and controls bodily functions and activity. Now, these are the components of nervous tissues. It consists of neuron, neuroglial cells, epidermal cells, and neurosecretory cells. Now, these neurons again, it shows there is the two parts: cell body, which is called as cyton, then neurites, which is called as nerve process. Now, this cell body or cyton again three types: multipolar, bipolar, or and unipolar. Then nerve process are dendrites and axon. Now, this is the neuron. This is the structure of typical neuron. You can see in this diagram there is a one green color nucleus is there, and this nucleus is surrounded by the hair like or tree like branches, which is called as dendrite, and this called as cell body. And through this cell body there is a long yellow color portion is coming out, which is called as axon, and it shows a special covering and which is called as myelin sheath. And this myelin sheath consists of cell which is called as the Schwann cells, and each point of this myelin sheath there is called as node of Ranvier, and this axon again joined to the axon terminal. The cell body is the enlarged portion of the neurons that contain the nucleus. It is a nutritional center of the neuron where macromolecules are produced. Their cell body also contains densely strained areas of rough endoplasmic reticulum known as Nissel's body, which is surrounded by the nucleus, which surrounds the nucleus. Then it is not that are not found in the dendrites or axon. Next part is the dendrites. It is like a tree branches. They are thin branch process or structure that extend from the cytoplasm of the cell body, and these dendrites provide a receptive area that transmit the electrical impulse to the cell body. Next part of neuron is a axon. It is a longer process that conduct impulse away from the cell body, and axons vary in length from 1 a millimeter long to up to a meter or more. The origin of the axon near the cell body is an expanded region called as a axon hillock. It is here that nerve impulse originate, and side branches called as axon collateral many extend from the axon. Now this neuron is again two types depending on the axon covering. This is a myelinated or non-myelinated axon. In that, myelinated sheath is present in case of myelinated neuron, and non-myelinated axon is a this sheath is absent. In this myelinated sheath, you can see in this diagram there is a green color structure. Covering is present on the axon, therefore it is called as myelinated. What is the difference between this myelinated and non-myelinated axon? In myelinated axon, transmission of nerve impulse is faster as compared to the non-myelinated. Then myelinated axon has a myelin sheath. In case of non, it is absent. Node of Ranvier is present between the adjacent myelin sheath, and in case of non-myelinated, the nodes of Ranvier is absent. Such type of neuron found in the brain, the spinal cord, the cranial and spinal nerves, and non-myelinated axons found in a autonomous and somatic neural system. Now, these myelinated Schwann cells are observed beside the myelin sheath, but in case of non-myelinated, Schwann cells are not observed inside the myelin sheath. These are the difference between the myelinated and non-myelinated sheath. Now, these myelinated nerves, which are the most common type in humans, conduct action potential much faster than the unmyelinated nerves. Next term is a synapse. Is a junction between the axon terminal of one neuron and the dendrite of the next neuron. It is separated by the small gap known as a synaptic cleft. A synapse is formed by the membranes of a presynaptic neuron, which may or may not separated by a gap called as a synaptic cleft. The chemicals involved in transmission of impulses at chemical synapses are called as neurotransmitters. Now, there are two types of synapses: electrical synapse and chemical synapse. In case of electrical synapse, the pre and postsynaptic neurons lie in the close proximity to each other. Hence, the impulse can move directly from one neuron to the another across the synapse, and this represents faster method of impulse transmission. Means one to one close contact is there, and they are directly transferred the impulses. In the chemical synapse, the pre and postsynaptic neurons are not in close proximity, therefore, they are separated by the synaptic cleft, and the transmission of nerve impulse is carried out the chemicals such as neurotransmitter, and it is a slow process as compared to the electrical synapses. Now, it is neuron is again two types on the basis of the structure and on the basis of function. On the basis of structure, there is a how many types or how many exons are coming out, and therefore it is called as multipolar neuron, then unipolar and bipolar neuron. On the basis of function, there are three types: sensory neuron, interneuron, and motor neuron. Sensory neuron, what is the function? It receives or it collects the impulse from the sensory organs, then it goes towards the interneuron, and third, which is the motor neuron, where the action is takes place. Now again, this nervous tissue shows a special type of cells, which is called as neuroglia, or neuroglial cells are specialized cells found in the brain and spinal cord, supporting the neurons and their fibers. About 50% of all brain cells are neuroglial cells. They provide a variety of functions for brain tissues. They support the metabolic and signaling functions of neurons, and these neuroglia also contribute to the organization and formation of barriers between the blood and the brain. The other function of neuroglia is a participation in creating an inflammatory response in injured neural tissues, including phagocytosis of cellular debris. These are the different types of neuroglial cells. First is those are present in a central nervous system, and those are present in a peripheral nervous system. In central nervous system, there is a epididymal cells, oligodendrocytes, astrocytes, and microglia. In peripheral nervous system, it is satellite cells and Schwann cells. In that first epidermal cells, these cells are arranged as an epithelial layer, one cell thick, which lines the ventricles, which means cavities of the brain, and the central canal of the spinal cord. The cells vary from squamous to the columnar according to their location. Their free surface bears numerous microvilli and cilia. And this microvilli, what is the function? It helps in the absorption of cerebrospinal fluid. The movement of the cilia contributes the flow of the cerebrospinal fluid. And these epidermal cells possess one or more long process toward the opposite side which penetrate the nervous tissue. You can see in this diagram there is a epidermal cells, brain or spinal cord tissues are below. Next type is the neurosecretory cells. These are the type of neuron or nerve cells whose function is to translate neural signals into the chemical stimuli. And such cells produce the secretions called as neurohormones that travel along the neuron axon and are typically released into the bloodstream of neurohuman organs and regions in which the axon endings are in close contact with blood capillaries. Neurosecretory cells are present in the most multicellular animals and are usually distinguished from other neurons by the unusually large size of the cell nucleus, axon endings, and the cell itself. Now you can see in this diagram, this is the endocrine gland, which is the pituitary, where there is a formation of different two hormones, which is the ADH and cytosine. ADH and cytosine. ADH is what is the target? Kidney tubules, and then oxytocin, which is a memory gland and nucleus of muscle in case of female. Now this is the summary. In this chapter we studied about the first epithelial tissues, then connective tissues, after that third muscular tissues, and last one is the nervous tissues. And these neurons are very important to carry the impulses from the, you can see the this diagram is very important for the draw neat level diagram of typical neuron. So you need to draw this diagram, which is the dendron, nucleus, axon, etc. These are the parts of this typical neuron. What is the function of this neuron? In basically, when we touch, these are the skin, ear, nose, eyes. These are the sensory organs. You know very well. When we touch the hot pot, then there is a this impulse or this signal is goes towards the brain. Then what is the signal of our motor neuron? We have to remove our hand, and this is because of this neuron, and it is very important for the our central nervous system. And this is about the chapter animal tissue. Thank you.